Honestly, this pattern has me in a chokehold. Hello and welcome to the Kuriaknits podcast. My name is Erin and I live in Southern Ontario with my dog and my husband. And in this podcast, I like to talk about knitting and anything else fiber arts related that I have going on. So I'm really excited you clicked on to join me. It is a beautiful winter's day here in Southern Ontario. We just had a snowstorm, so everything is a renewed white, but it's only like -3 today, which is honestly such a blessing after yesterday was like -15. And I am fulfilling every stereotype about Canadians liking to talk about the weather because yeah, I'm like an old grandma. I just keep the weather app open at all times and I'm constantly refreshing it. I just have to know what's going on outside my door at all times. So yeah, I guess we'll just get it right into things. My first finished object is what I'm wearing. This is the Marzipan Pullover by Sari Nordlund. It was a test knit and it is not out yet, but I'm hopeful that it will be out within the next couple of weeks. And I knit this in Cascade 220 in the color Aubergine. And it is this beautiful purple color. We've got some all over, not all over, we've got cabling in the yoke, and then it goes into a 2x2 rib on the arms and on the rest of the body. And I can stand up a little bit and show how it looks. It is beautiful. I absolutely love the way that it's turned out. It's got beautiful sleeve detailing, some more of that cabling on the sleeve there, and I've been really loving it. This knit was honestly, that's the perils of living downtown. This knit was a lot more enjoyable than I thought it was going to be, honestly. I thought the cabling was going to be quite difficult, and to be honest, it was probably the most difficult cabling I've ever done. There's a lot of cables that go into almost every row. As you can see, it's really intricate, but it encourages you to go fast. It's about, I think, maybe 50 rows of cabling, and then you're just doing 2x2 rib. It feels like forever. The other reason I thought that this was going to be more of a difficult knit is it's on really small needles. So I was working with like 3.5 and 4mm needles for almost all of this. And usually with a worsted weight yarn, I'm used to working with something a little bit bigger. I don't think I've ever worked a worsted weight in like a 3mm, 3 to 4mm size. And so that was definitely new for me. And I thought the fabric would be a lot thicker than what it is, and honestly it's not. Like, it's a really, really well thought out pattern, as all of Sari Nordlund's patterns are, and I just think it's beautiful. The ends are finished off with a 1x1 rib, and I was a little worried about it when looking at the pattern, but honestly I should just trust the pattern because I think it actually turned out really well. This is just steam locked because I wanted to wear it, and I think that this one will take a little bit to dry. But I'm going to give it a bath after this, and I'm hoping the fabric will relax a little bit more. I absolutely adore the way that the body fits right now, but the arms kind of chunk up a little bit. Like, you can see the way that they're, maybe I'm just making a big deal out of it, but I like to push my sleeves up and it doesn't like to lay nicely, and I can't tell if it's because the fabric's still a little bit stiff or if it's because of the 2x2 ribbing on the arms. Yeah, I don't know. I will say that 2x2 rib isn't my favorite for arms in general. I'm thrilled to have a sweater with it, but I don't think I would seek out this 2x2 on the arms again. But perhaps when I block it properly, that opinion will change. I also think for the look of it, versus the effort of it, I prefer just going straight on my sleeves. Whereas on the other hand, things, I absolutely love it for the body. So yeah, I don't know how this sweater would look if you just didn't continue the rib on the side. I feel like you could do a version like that, but obviously being a test knit, I wanted to knit it true to the pattern. and I'm really glad I did. I think it turned out really, really lovely. I would say if you're a beginner, try and get maybe a cabled hat under your belt before attempting this. Just get a feel for cables, because or put a lot of lifelines in, because I did mess up right on the bottom of cabling on the back, and trying to rip it back was extremely difficult. I managed to do it, but if I had a lifeline in, I think that would have been a lot easier for me. So that's what I would recommend if you are a new knitter, or just anyone really, is just put lifelines in maybe every 5 to 10 rows, and I think that you will be thankful for it in the end. So yeah, I'm really, really pleased again with the way that this sweater turned out. I saw one version where someone had knitted it with a significant alpaca content, and I almost wish I had done that, because the way that it drapes is dreamy, and this is definitely much more of a structured knit for me. So yeah, I'm hoping to do a little bit more with some alpaca yarns in the future, because the drape just gets to be, it just does something to me, excuse me. Yeah, so I've got one more finished object for you, and it is this. This is a modified muscle burrow hat, and it is knit with Manos del Uruguay and Allegra, and in Knit Picks palette yarn in Finley Heather, I believe is the shade. It's very, very, very light gray. And so this is a modified muscle burrow. So I followed the pattern from the top to about here, and then I just went into ribbing, because I didn't want to do kind of the way that the muscle burrow is done, is it flips inside out, and then you have a double thickness hat, and I thought that this was thick enough. The muscle burrow hat can be done in weights, fingering all the way up to worsted weight yarn, but honestly, any more than a sport, I don't think I'd want double on my head. I think it'd be too warm, and I think it'd be too thick. And this is with 2 fingering weight yarns in here. It's about a DK weight, and I thought that it would just be way too thick over the head, and especially when you roll the band up, it would then be 4 layers thick on a DK weight yarn, and I just thought that would be way too much. So I just made kind of the executive call to do some ribbing at the bottom and call it a day, and I really love it. I think I'll do this again with a thicker yarn. It's a really, really fast knit, and I really like doing top-down hats. When I saw them like kind of gaining traction on Instagram, I was like, why would you do that? And now I totally get it. I think it's a really fun way to make a hat, and I love it. Let me show it on. So yeah, just fits like that. I think it fits great. It goes really well with the winter coats that I do have, and I stuck a pom on it. I think it finishes off the hat really well. It's just a white pom. I had gotten them in a set from Amazon, and it's got like an elastic at the bottom that you shove into the hat. Honestly, I wish it had just been like a piece of rope, because the elastic, if you don't put it in, like don't really sew it in well enough, it can be stretchy, and then the pom is just like chilling at the top, kind of wagging around. But I sewed this in really well, so that's okay. But I'm thrilled with the way the colors turned out. The like marling on here is absolutely stunning, and I don't even think the camera's doing it justice. But yeah, I'm absolutely in love with the way that this turned out, and I will soon be getting another muscle burrow on my needles, and I will show you what I have planned for that a little bit later. But yes, love it. Okay, and for whips, my first whip that I'm showing today is the Kenley Pullover, which looks like this. It's looking so good. So I finished the body, obviously, and I'm just starting on one of the sleeves, and I'm lucky that it's like a straight sleeve. So I've got interchangeables that fit. I don't have like shorties. So when it's like not wide enough to fit on these, I do use DPNs, and I don't mind DPNs, but there's something special about being able to crack out a sleeve in the round, especially when it's in moss stitch. So you're basically ribbing it. yeah. So this was an incredibly enjoyable knit. I had said last time that I was worried that the body was going to be really, really wide on me. And it's a touch wide, but I think that it's really fine. And I think that it fits actually extremely well. Again, this has been a lesson in just trusting the patterns and the designers because they really know what they're doing. But I would say that, so this is a test knit for Fine Fibre Co. And it's not out yet, but I would say that when it is out, this is a beginner friendly cable pattern. So you've just got kind of 6 main cables across the front, and they're not too difficult. It's a 12 pattern repeat, and it's really easy to get the swing of. And in between is just a double moss stitch. And I really adore the way that double moss stitch looks. I think it's one of my favorite patterns in a knit. It creates just this absolutely beautiful, beautiful texture that I just love. I love the way that it wears, and I love just the way that it looks. So I'm looking forward to making more with this texture in it. And the nice thing for me is that texture is all over the arms as well. So I think it's going to turn out to be absolutely lovely, even if I am so sick of doing ribbing. After doing this sweater and now this sweater, I think I'm going to have to take a serious break from all over ribbing because my hands just need to have a bit of a break. That said, I love the results. I think I picked up a little bit too many stitches on the neckband. It's sitting a little funky, and I can't tell if that's because it needs a good block or if it's just kind of sitting funny. So I might, after I'm done, rip this out and re-knit it. It is a folded over neckband, same as this one actually, but just a little bit thinner. And honestly, it looks really, really good on. This sweater is knit in 2 strands of Knit Pick palette yarn. That's the darker red, in 1 strand of Knit Pick's alpaca, I think alpaca blaze, and a lace weight. And so you can see the lighter red marling throughout it, and that's the alpaca. And honestly, I absolutely adore the drape on this thing. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but it just drapes absolutely beautifully. I'm so in love with the way that the fabric, like the actual feel of the fabric, is turning out. I think it'll be absolutely lovely to wear. The one thing I'm curious about is how much it's gonna grow. I feel like it might grow quite a bit. So yeah, stay tuned. I'm excited to see what comes of that. But the original pattern was knit in 2 strands of some kind of fingering weight wool and 1 strand of mohair, and I wanted to knit this from stash. And so I had already had this color picked out for a sweater number 8, and then I was gonna knit a sweater number 15 with it, and now I'm knitting the Kenley pullover with it. I just never ended up casting the other 2 on, and those are 2 patterns that I would still love to make, but I will purchase yarns at a future point with them. But I'm really thrilled that I could make this beautiful test knit out of yarn that I had in stash, and I think it should be out next month, so I will definitely talk about it once it comes out. And of course, I'm hoping to finish it within the next 2 weeks. I think the deadline is March 1st, but I've just got the arms to go, so I'm not too worried about that. But I really haven't had any notes for them. It's been an extremely well-written pattern, so I've been really impressed with just the whole group of test knitters and the way that test knitting communities come together. It's been a really, really lovely experience with Fine Fibre Co. So if they ever have another call for a test knit, I absolutely recommend test knitting for them. So the second whip that I'm showing today is the one that has me, honestly, this pattern has me in a chokehold. I saw it on Instagram and I had to have it. So I cast it on almost immediately. This is the first pattern that I was just floored by, and I think is absolutely lovely. So this is the Grærup. I'm probably saying that wrong. I'll put it right here, Chunky by Camilla in the 6 color version, and it looks like this. So this is an all over stranded colorwork pattern that is knit from the bottom up, and it's usually started with the body and then you do the sleeves, but I decided to do the sleeves because I had some working out to do, which I'll talk about in a minute. But look Look at it. It is so stunning. I am so in love with this pattern. I'm in love with the original colorway, but I wanted to make it from stash, and I have an obscene amount of almost full skeins of Cascade 220, and that is what I'm making this out of. So you may recognize this green, this reddy color, this cream color, and these colors up here. They are in my Lume sweater from Sari Nordlund. They are the colors that I used for that. This blue was thrifted. What else is in here? This like gray color down here is the only one that I actually bought new. So yeah, extremely economical project for me, and that's amazing. Because I am knitting this out of Cascade 220, I have had to modify the crap out of this pattern. So the original pattern, as the name implies, calls for a chunky or bulky weight yarn. And that alone has me questioning things a little bit. So it calls for chunky or bulky weight in the pattern. But if you look at what Camilla had made her version with, it was with 2 sport weight yarns. And if you look on like the converter of how to convert sizes over, 2 sport weight should make an Erin weight yarn. And Cascade 220 is a worsted weight yarn, so it should be quite close to that, but yet hers says it calls for bulky. And honestly, the needle weights imply that it should be chunky because this is made with 7mm needles. So it's been a little bit of working out, to be honest with you. So I've decided to do a whole bunch of modifications to this, which are all on my Ravelry if you would like to do similar. Not that I recommend it. I'm quite newish to knitting and I have no business modifying a pattern this much, but we are hoping for the best. So I'm knitting a size 4, even though I should be about a size 2. There is only 5 sizes in this pattern, which I'd like to see more from a designer, but I do think that the sizes are quite generous. And because the repeats are only six rows long, or 6 like stitches wide, I think you could modify this to make it bigger quite easily. Should larger folks have to do that? Absolutely not, but that option is there for you if you are a larger individual. But again, for me to be a size 2 in a pattern, I'm usually a 4. So I would keep that in mind. For example, I knit this at a size 4. That's usually where I sit in most patterns that are graded to a 9 size scale. And for reference, I am a 42-inch bust and usually wear a size large in like straight sizes. So I am actually knitting this at size 4, which is the second largest size. I am knitting this on 6.5mm needles for the body and 5mm needles for the cuff. The original pattern has you knitting the cuff in 7mm needles, and I think that for a worsted weight yarn, that would just be way too holy and like stretched out. So I prefer the fabric of a 5mm. In 6.5, I thought would be really stretching it for a worsted weight, but honestly, I think it's turning out fine. I probably could have done the 7, but even with the 7, I wasn't hitting gauge anyway, so this is fine. I also, because I'm working from stash in my colors, completely rewrote the chart of this pattern. So all of the like structural bits are the same. I just changed the color placement to make sure that certain colors aren't pairing together. For example, I think that this red-ish color with this black color, the original pattern would have had them together, and I don't love, I think they look a little Halloween-y if they're together. What was another one? This reddish color again, this is the one that's causing me problems, was with the green, and it both looked a little bit Christmassy, but there wasn't enough contrast in those colors. And so I think just working with 6 colors, if you don't use the exact colors that she's using, which are beautiful by the way, I think it's just really difficult to match the color chart up in a way that all of your colors are singing with each other well. And so I would recommend playing around with those colors. I just put it in an Excel. I wish I could show you guys, but that would just be giving away the whole pattern, and obviously I don't want to do that. My dog is like, I've got like a hanging plant over there and he's just like nudging it and he's like a cat. He's just like swinging at the plant. And I don't know why he's doing it. It's kind of funny to watch. But if you hear his little paws, he's due for a nail cutting. But he's just like roaming around the house. I think he doesn't know what to do while I'm filming. So sorry if you can hear that. So anyways, yes, I think that those are the main amendments I'm doing with this pattern. So that's why I started with the sleeves, is because I just wanted to iron out some of those kinks first. And I think that it's worked out. I did make the sleeve twice, and I'm working on like an actual second sleeve. And by twice, I mean I had to remake the whole sleeve because I wasn't pleased in the first time with how things were working out. So that's why I started with the sleeves, second sleeve on the go, and then I will start on the body. I will say that with this being 6.5mm needles, this is going unbelievably fast. This whole arm took 2.5 hours, maybe. I was able to do it in an evening. So I think the body's gonna fly by. And I'm really interested in I just lost the end. That's what you get when you don't tighten them on properly. What was I gonna say? Oh, I'm really interested in the construction of this. I've never done bottom up sleeves, and I've really enjoyed knitting on them because when you're knitting in the round, you don't have like a giant sweater holding you back and you just kind of go round and round and round. And I like this construction of a sweater a lot more than I thought I would. So yeah, I will say that this pattern also originally came in a 2-color version that I am not the biggest fan of, but seems decently popular and a lot of other people have made. So if you really like the design of this pattern, but you only got 2 colors that you think would work well together, I would still check it out. I think the 2-color version is fine. I just can't imagine myself wearing it. Maybe I just haven't seen the right color combo for it. But I think the way that it's charted out is absolutely beautiful, and Camilla has such a winner on her hands, and I'm thrilled to be trying one of her patterns for the first time. Okay, so today I don't have acquisitions to show. That's not to say I didn't acquire yarn, because I absolutely did in a monstrous way. So my last video is a massive thrift haul that I lucked into at a Value Village. So if you're looking for like thrift haul-y content, please click up there and you will find that video. I also have a video coming up that is a Facebook Marketplace find that was an obscene amount of Knit Picks yarn. So that should be reaching you guys, I think, next week. And so if you're looking for yarn haul type content, that is where to find it. I will be putting acquisitions into these videos when it's more of a small scale thing, but I think that people do enjoy watching when it's like a half hour of showing yarn. I don't really want to tag that to the end of these things. If you feel differently, please let me know, but that's kind of what I plan to do. So instead, I'd like to talk you through some of what my brain is thinking of for future plans. So I have, oh my gosh, I have swatched, and this was to see how this yarn looks with some mohairs. So let me kind of walk you through what I did here. So I've got this Lowell by Project Weekend yarn that I adore. Lowell by Project Weekend is one of my favorite yarns in the whole wide world. It is very similar to the, in like weight and thickness as We Are Knitters Marrowool, I think, is the closest comparator that I found to this. It is a bulky weight. It is 125 grams per 125 meters, and it's beautiful. This color, I'll be honest, I mentioned this in the last one, is a little bit lighter than I was expecting it to be. On the website it shows up more of a like brownie yellow, brownie orange color, and this is a lot more yellow. So yeah, so I'm looking to cast on something with this soon, and I want it to be something quite simple, not a whole lot of ribbing, just give my mind a little bit of a break and just allow this yarn to sing. So I decided to do a swatch with some of the mohair that I picked up from Value Village. So if you watched that haul, you will have seen that I picked up this mohair and I thought that they might pair well together. And I also picked up this mohair, and so I wanted to see if any of these would be a good combination, and I'm not sure. So as you can see, I did cake these up. For this one, I haven't caked up the whole comb because it, if you remember, there's just an absolute obscene amount of this mohair. And for this guy, I did cake up the whole thing and was able to weigh it, and it was 325 grams of mohair, which is so much. But anyway, this is what the swatch turned out like. So this is down here, one strand of the mohair and one strand of wool of the orange mohair. This is 2 strands of the orange mohair and 1 strand of wool. This is just wool, and this is 1 strand of the sparkly mohair and 1 strand of wool. So let me get you up closer. So I have some thoughts. I think if I were to pair this with mohair, I would do 1 strand of the orange mohair. And I do actually quite like the halo it gives it, but this is my problem. This mohair has a white strand going throughout it, if you can see that. And I think that when you pair it with such a bright yarn, it's really, really visible. And I don't love that. And so I'm leaning towards just using the wool on its own and not using a mohair with it. I think that's what I'm gonna do. And so I have been kind of picking between a couple patterns that call for bulky weights. That's very simple. And I think I've decided on a pattern, and I hope to have it cast on my next podcast. So I will leave it there because in the off chance I change my mind, I don't want to upset what I'm going to do with it. But then it's a question of what do I do with all of this mohair? Then I saw, if you saw last time, I picked up this light linen lace, which is stunning. I've got 3 skeins of this, and I was gonna make some kind of summer top with it. But I think that these guys might go really well together. And I have not swatched yet, but I was trying to poke around and see if there were any patterns that call for around 1,200 meters of fingering weight paired with the mohair. And honestly, I haven't found many because most of the ones that are fingering weight mohair are larger sweaters, and I think I would need minimum 4 skeins of this. So I could make a sweater in like a short sleeve version, or just stick what I was originally gonna do and not pair it with the mohair. So many possibilities. This is the problem with thrifting yarn, is that you get yarn that you don't have a plan for. But I think I have a plan for the other mohair. So this mohair, if you can see, it's got all this sparkle kind of going throughout it. And like I said, there was about 375 grams of this mohair in that cone. And I've caked it all up for the purpose of I wanted to measure it and get a good measurement. And also I'm not used to looking at yarn in cones. And so I just wanted to get a sense of kind of what I was working with. But I was looking at patterns in my favorites list and on Ravelry, and I realized that the Sunday Cardigan Mohair edition is made, my size calls for about 325 grams of mohair, and it's mohair held triple. And I actually think that this would make an absolutely lovely cardigan, really let that shine in this yarn sing. And so I think that's the plan for this color. Honestly, it could also be the plan for this color. We'll see how much I like that cardigan. But I think that I will be casting that on. Maybe not next, but somewhere in the future. So I'm just happy to have like a tentative plan for this yarn, even if it's not 100% what I want to do. But if you have any mohair only patterns that you really enjoy, let me know. I was also looking at some of Fabel Knitwear's patterns, and there's one that is predominantly mohair that looks absolutely stunning. So I might check out some of her like really beautiful blouses that I think I can make with some of the mohair that I obtained on that day. So yeah, I'm excited for that. And then I mentioned that I'm going to cast on another muscle burb hat, and I will be casting on with this I think I'm going to just do a fingering weight hat, and because that way it will last me through more meetings. I absolutely love the muscle burrow, modified muscle burrow I just made, but it was way too short for what that project is intended for. It's intended for my car knitting, my meeting knitting, the knitting that I can just hop on and do. And I think that having it in a fingering weight yarn much more fulfills that purpose for me. And so that's exactly what I'll be doing. So I'm going to cast this on soon. That's the only problem with the muscle burrow, is I like to get it started because I have to start it on DPNs because you started with only 8 stitches. So it's really, really, really tiny circumference. So I kind of got to get it started before it can become my meeting knit, and I just haven't. So yeah, muscle burrow hat incoming. I have a feeling my husband might steal this one because I think this color would go really well with this coat. It's in the color espresso, by the way. And this is Knitting Loft La Di yarn. It's 80% superwash, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon. And it is beautiful. So I'm very excited to cast this on. So that's all I have to share with you today. I have a feeling that this will be a little bit of a shorter one, especially without acquisitions on the tail end, but I'm very thrilled that you decided to join me today. If you have any thoughts on the things that I'm knitting, or if you want to share what you're knitting, please leave them in the comments below. I love hearing from you guys, and every time I get a notification that there's a comment, my heart just kind of gives a little flutter. So thank you for being here, and hope you're all having an amazing week, and I will see you next time. Bye.